Have you ever thought about how your body is kinda like a house? No, this isn't a one-liner, though I have plenty of those. I really mean this one. Bones are like a frame. Your organs and inner tissues are like the insulation in furniture, and your skin and hair is just like the outside siding or brick. The most important part, though, you can't build a house or a human body without a good frame. Bones help keep our body in tip-top shape, literally, but they also provide support and protection for our essential organs and systems. Imagine your internal organs being protected by eggshells instead of hard, durable bone. No thanks. Bones are obviously very critical to our survival, but have you ever stopped to wonder, how is the frame of our body even built? We're all born with around 300 bones, but as an adult, we're only left with 206. Where do they go? Do they just disappear? Not quite. The answer lies in how our bones are built and transformed as we age. Now let's take a look at the science behind bone growth and development. Let's start with how bones are formed. This process, called osteogenesis or ossification, starts just a few weeks after conception and continues into adulthood. There are two types of ossification that contribute to healthy, normal bone growth: intramembranous ossification and endochondral ossification. I know those are definitely some massive sciencey words, but don't worry, we'll work through them together. First, we'll learn about intramembranous ossification. This type of ossification, which creates both spongy and compact bone, is how your flat bones and some irregular ones are formed. These include many of the facial bones, some bones in your skull, and your collarbones. In intramembranous ossification, the key player is mesenchymal tissue. A mesenchymal tissue is undifferentiated, meaning it doesn't have a purpose right off the get-go. At the start of intramembranous ossification, the mesenchymal tissue begin to differentiate and change into more specialized cells like capillaries, osteoblasts, and more. Mesenchymal tissue that differentiates into osteoblasts, which are the cells that form new bone, group together and form what is called an ossification center. This is where a new bone will start ossification. In addition to grouping together to form ossification centers, osteoblasts also secrete something called osteoid. Osteoid is what we call an uncalcified matrix, which kind of acts like air dry clay. It gets sent out from the osteoblasts and hardens over a few days, actually trapping the osteoblasts inside. Just like your DIY clay sculptures, minus the trapped bone cells. Okay, so now we've got mesenchymal tissue that turned into osteoblasts, and osteoblasts that turned into ossification centers, secreted osteoid, and trapped the osteoblasts. Some of the recently trapped osteoblasts undergo another transformation to become osteocytes, which are the cells inside of the bone. Now, remember the osteoid we mentioned earlier? Well, that hasn't stopped working. Osteoid secretes over other differentiated mesenchymal tissue too, turning the tissue around capillaries into the trabecular matrix of the bone, and turning surface osteoblasts into the periosteum, or the protective outer layer of the bone. Talk about wearing a lot of hats at your job. Once the periosteum and trabecular matrix are developed, we're almost done. At this point, the periosteum gets to work developing a protective layer of compact bone, and osteoblasts near the periosteum get to work making layers and layers of new bone. The whole process of intramembranous ossification can be thought as bones building themselves from inside out, starting with tissue that turns into osteoblasts, that turn into osteocytes, that turn into the trabecular matrix. You get the idea. Intramembranous ossification starts in utero, when you're still a fetus and continues on into adolescence. You might be wondering why it takes so long. Well, it actually makes birth way easier. When you're born, there are a bunch of places on your body that aren't ossified yet, including your skull. And this makes it way easier for you to squish through the birth canal unscathed. Cool, right? As you get older, the rest of your irregular and flat bones reach complete ossification. The last bones to ossify through intramembranous ossification, funnily enough, are the bones in your face. Turns out you really do get hard-faced in your 20s. Now that we understand intramembranous ossification, let's dive into endochondral ossification. Endochondral ossification is the second type of bone formation, and it's more or less a replacement method. This happens in places like the bottom of your skull and your long bones, like your femur. You've heard of cartilage, right? The sort of bony, sort of squishy material that you can feel in your ears and the tip of your nose. Well, we have cartilage all over our body. And it serves a really important purpose in some places. It's basically a blueprint for bone formation. In endochondral ossification, the mesenchymal cells that we talked about earlier turn into hyaline cartilage, and then new bone tissue completely replaces the cartilage. Because we are working with a multi-part transformation, remember, mesenchymal cells to cartilage, cartilage replaced by bone. This type of ossification takes way longer than intramembranous. In long bones, for example, mesenchymal cells only start differentiating into cartilage cells at 6 to 8 weeks of conception. Now that we know an overview of how endochondral ossification works, let's break things down a little bit more. Endochondral ossification can be thought as multiple distinct steps that might differ in number between the references you consult, but almost all of these occur in utero. The mesenchymal cells get notified that they'll be turning into cartilage cells via different transcription factors that show off cartilage-specific genes. The mesenchymal cells read the cartilage to-do message and successfully differentiate into cartilage cells or chondrocytes. Cartilage forms into its bone blueprint, covered by a protective membrane called the perichondrium. Chondrocytes undergo a process called hypertrophy, where the cells increase in size. The now larger chondrocytes add collagen X and fibronectin into the matrix, encouraging bone mineralization via calcium carbonate. Blood vessels penetrate the newly formed cartilage, and the chondrocytes die off, leaving space for bone marrow to eventually enter. Cells around the cartilage undergo differentiation to become osteoblasts, and different aspects of the bone develop further, including the periosteum, which is developed from the perichondrium, and the periosteal collar, which is bone buildup at the diaphysis, which is the middle portion of the long bone. The diaphysis, where the periosteal collar forms, will act as primary ossification center for bone growth. The chondrocytes and cartilage will continue to grow at the end of the bone, called the epiphysis, after birth. After we're born, endochondral ossification doesn't stop. From the ossification center in the middle of the bone, endochondral ossification creeps out to each end of the bone, building as it goes. As ossification reaches the epiphyses, or the ends of each bone, the chondrocytes go hypertrophic, expanding and pushing the cartilaginous ends further and further out. As the already ossified end of the bone goes farther and farther out, the bone continues to grow. Talking about growing pains, right? So now we've covered how our bones are built, but how do they grow? The process of bone growth is actually quite similar to the endochondral ossification process. The cartilage surrounding the epiphyseal or growth plate at the ends of your bones continues to grow through mitosis. And during mitosis, new chondrocytes are created to replace the ones that died. The newer chondrocytes are smaller than older ones. So the older, larger chondrocytes hang out in a different place, closer to the middle of the bone. And as the bone calcifies, much like in endochondral ossification, capillaries and osteoblasts join the party. Bone tissue is secreted and eventually connects to the epiphyseal plate, where all this growth is happening, and connecting to the already bona fide diaphysis. This growth process happens from birth until early adulthood, and when bones grow, they can fuse and join together. Remember how we said you have so many more bones as a baby than you do as an adult? Well, we can thank ossification for joining those teeny baby bones together to form stronger adult bones. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, your bones are like the frame to a good house. But after talking more about intramembranous and endochondral ossification, I'd argue that bones have an even tougher job than holding up a house. Can your house frame create a new house? I didn't think so. Bones help keep our body in tip-top shape, and the way they do that will never cease to amaze me. It's a real osteoblast to learn about it, right? Before we go, I would like to thank you for sticking around this far. It's been a joy seeing all the reactions and support that we've been getting on this channel. Again, you guys simply rock. We want to produce more biomedical science videos, and we can only do it with your help. Here's what you can do. Buy us a super thanks by clicking on the thanks button under every video. Or become a channel member to get early access to every video published on this channel and other perks we might release in the future. Your support will allow us to produce more fabulous content for you. Click on the next video to continue learning more about biology and osteology. Like the video if you want to see more of these on this channel. And subscribe if you don't want to miss the next upload. Oh yeah, I will see you next time.